Hi folks, I'm Ed Amoroso from Tag Cyber, and I want to welcome you to a conversation I'll be having with my friend Ann Bonaparte, who's the CEO of Appthority. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Oh, great to be in San Francisco.
Yes.
This is your city.
This is my city. Yes, we're based here, and it's actually the city I was born in. So, 5th generation.
Really, born here.
Yeah.
So that's fantastic. Hey, you run such a cool company. What's
I do.
What's it like to be CEO of a cybersecurity company in Silicon Valley? That sounds like a dream come true.
Well, it's a dream come true if you like to not sleep and be always on and always being challenged to push yourself to the next level. And I think that's what appeals to me about this industry and, you know, how I got into tech in the first place. I was an engineer in college and quickly figured out once I got in the real world that I might not be, you know, the best engineer, you know, developing code by myself, but I found out I could really solve problems by listening to customers and creating technology to address those. And so I started out my life as a systems engineer at IBM and kind of grew up in the ranks. And had lots of experiences in between, but I was always drawn to cyber because one of the company I founded, we were in a different space, project management, but all my customers didn't want to hear about my cool features, they wanted to know about security. And so that was a lesson to me to say, hey, I better learn a little more about security because this is going to be the wave of the future as we get more and more different kinds of networks and devices. And I just figured that was the path, and it's turned out to be just an incredible journey and an opportunity to really serve customers and solve problems.
You know, I noticed Appthority a couple of years ago. I thought definitely not enough companies looking at mobile security. I mean, it's a lot more now, but you guys were doing it early, and it's like you've expanded the portfolio. You do a lot of really interesting things there. You think mobile is now the way people do business? Seems like it, right? I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, even you know, with your history at AT&T, you know, there was a lot about BYOD, and that's dangerous. And what are we going to let that in? We're sort of moved on beyond that conversation. The reality is, mobile is a new platform, and we're certainly using it more than a phone. We're using it more than email.
It's a mobile device to cloud is the way you do your business.
Yes,
right?
And so that means this is the key. You know, the mobile device is the key into the cloud.
Right.
And if you think about that, then there's a lot of security implications about, therefore, what else is on this phone? How do I think about the apps I just downloaded to help me go to that concert? You know, and what about that business app that I want to use? I'm now accessing the enterprise kingdom of all the data in the cloud, and I want to make sure that that mobile device doesn't introduce any new risk, that in an environment that, as you know, is probably already locked down pretty well, given the history of investments across all sorts of networks within the enterprise. Really, the perimeter is the employee.
True. And
the device is always attached to the employee. And our company was founded by a couple incredible guys in 2011, and they saw it early. I mean, they recognized that there was an opportunity to really do just incredible depth of analysis on these apps that are being developed for speed and productivity, but not necessarily, and fun, but not necessarily for security. And we better really understand those on a deep level so that we can protect enterprises. And
you know, we were chatting before, but the CISOs have to worry not just about security, it's also privacy stuff now,
right?
Like GDPR and so on. Seems to me that might be just as much of a challenge as security, right? The privacy implications of much stricter frameworks are going to, I think, change the game a little bit, maybe for the better. I mean, we do security, so it's good. But is that something you guys hear from your customers, like both security and privacy and compliance and all together?
Yeah, it's quite quite connected right now, and I'm really interested in your points of view on this as well. But our customers, you know, buy us because of our security. We enable enterprises to understand, get the visibility on the risks being introduced by the mobile devices, and provide a policy framework that's integrated into their systems so that then they can make policy decisions in both compliance and security to protect their environment and protect before a breach happens. And our whole focus is to try to get that ahead of the curve, and that's our objective.
You know, it's funny, back in the late 80s, I used to run this software called Dr. Solomon's
Oh,
on
yeah,
an old PC. And people thought, but I mean, a bunch of others thought we were nuts. And I remember thinking, well, my PC is my business now. That's important. And there was still a lot of people on mainframes and so on. Feels like that in mobility, too. If you think about it, my phone is my business now. I mean, that's literally my lifeline.
Right.
And I think not enough companies have really emotionally accepted that mobile device and applications that are hosted wherever, that's kind of your business now, right? I'm sure you hear that from your customers.
Yeah, it's your business and it's also your personal
life.
It's
life. It's
you know, what's interesting that device that we can't live without, you know, is a general purpose computer. It's a surveillance device, of course, with microphones and cameras and radios. And it's got a lot of personal data and a lot of business data, and it's ever changing. Think how often you get those pop-ups about need to, you know, update this app or that app. So it's an area that needs continual monitoring and then response. And what we're finding is, what enterprises are pretty excited about is they're recognizing, yes, this is the door into the cloud, into our enterprise. So we need to get that visibility and then have compliance frameworks so that we can not only meet our security needs, but our privacy needs. And we built those in because we recognize that user anonymity is really important, and particularly if you think about a global company. You know, different countries have different rules about what's allowed to be shared and what's not, and then now with GDPR, although it's not prescriptive, it's quite clear you have to be able to know, you know, what data is being shared and when, and the right to return it. So it's going to be a big challenge, and we're having some pretty exciting conversations about why that's good for business. You know, sometimes regulation is perceived as just a negative, and I believe, you know, one, I believe security is really important, and I may be a rare one, but I don't believe, you know, privacy is dead. I just don't believe, particularly as we think about the recent Cambridge Analytica and Facebook, right?
Scott McNeely, I think, made that
Well, I think he said that, yeah, and I think he's kind of, you know, he's a hero, but
I hope he's wrong.
Yeah, but on some level, are we willing, as we've just seen, to swing our elections, to, you know, just have behavior modification? Right, so whatever stripe we wear, I think we need to think about, at the root of it is data, right? Data both about the enterprise and about the person, and how do we protect that? You know, is it going to be perfect? No, but you know, you've been a CISO. Maybe you could talk about like how you think about this sort of confluence, because I'm pretty pragmatic, but I believe we can't give up the goal of having some boundaries, some privacy elements, and really keep people as secure as we can, keep people as aware as we can, make them have personal responsibility as well, but enable with tools to really make it easier for the security organizations to serve their enterprises and their customers.
Well, when people ask me, like, what should a CISO be focused on? What are the big issues? I say three things: mobile, cloud, and virtual. And virtual is probably more network. You know, the network infrastructure becomes more intertwined with software and software-defined and so on. But mobile may be the most important of the three, because that really is that intersection between your personal life and your business life.
Right.
It's that lifeline to everything that's important to you. And if you don't get it right, there's some significant consequences, right? I'm sure you've seen some pretty tough threats that pop up when it's not attended to properly.
Right, and you know, I think everybody thinks about malware, and certainly that's number one. And I think the stores are, you know, are doing a pretty good job. You know, Apple and Google are doing a much better job for mobile malware than, say, 7 years ago when we started.
That's not their job. They
Right.
don't call themselves security companies. So,
Right.
you know,
So, but I think I would, you know, shout out. I think they're doing a much better job. But I think what they can't do and they're not doing is really recognizing, you know, what's beneath the covers. When you think about these apps, you know, it's not the old days when everybody wrote every line of code. I mean, maybe, you know, the old days when I was writing code, but now they're employing SDKs and software, you know, development kits so that they can really have these libraries, and they're pulling them in and doing the shortcuts, which is great, but they may not understand how what threats are introduced from some of these SDKs, like with Monkey Socks that allowed, you know, a third-party network to be then routed through the phone in the enterprise and take advantage of a couple of organizations. And it was not malintent, it was just maybe or maybe it was, it's hard to tell, but it was certainly sloppy. It was a way for them to monetize, their app versus an ad-supported. And there's just a lot of SDK and libraries where, even though they're well written out about how to do the security, sometimes people take shortcuts, and that creates real risks for enterprises. And that's what we want. We want to make sure we expose those risks and help people take preventive action so their data isn't
It's like
exploited.
You're having some fun doing this, huh?
I love what I do. I think, who gets to, I get to work on just what I believe is just one of the most important issues in business.
Me
is
too.
protecting our enterprises so they can flourish and thrive, and as you said, privacy, protecting the employees' privacy. And that's really important to me as an employee and to all my employees. And I get to work with the smartest people I know, and they keep me on my toes every day, which is, you keep learning, right? And you keep pushing to solve bigger and bigger problems, and that's what keeps me waking up every day and just so happy to be CEO of Appthority.
I want to close by asking for some advice. We get a lot of young people who watch, a lot of college students, grad students, and they see you and they think, wow, there's a cool CEO. What advice do you give someone when they say, I would love to do that? Like, you grew up kind of in IBM, like there's tremendous training programs at IBM. What would you say for a youngster who says, I want to be what you do? What would you say?
Well, I grew up at IBM and Hewlett Packard, so I want to give a shout out to Bill and Dave. And they did train me well. One, I would say, if you can get into a really great company, I know it's really hot to start at a startup, but I personally believe learning some of the ropes about how it's done right helped me in my career. That's a little old-fashioned. So if you're lucky enough to work with a great company that's a little bit bigger, that has the training resources, do that. Second, I would say, I think, stay close to really either delivering or selling or understanding the value proposition you're delivering to the customers. Because always although we're a venture-backed company, when a company transitions to, high-flying success, it's always, the customers are beginning to pay the paychecks versus the VCs. And so you always want to understand what is driving that customer behavior. Can I make my product better? Can I tune it? Can I make it easier? We certainly don't have enough security professionals. So how can I deliver that value proposition better, faster, simpler to the customers? Because then we'll sell more. So if you can get close to revenue, I'm really value that, and take risks in your career to do something that might feel a little uncomfortable. And I think that's what I've done in my life, is push myself every time to maybe stretch into something I might not fully understand at the beginning. And we all are lifelong learners, and it's an opportunity to really ensure our impact has its greatest breadth.
Well, wonderful advice. I'm going to try and take your advice myself. It's so nice of you to share, and it was wonderful chatting with you.
Well, I really appreciate the opportunity. It's great to see you, and thanks for coming to my city.
And keep up the good work. Keep us nice and safe.
I will. I'm on a mission. So
All right, that's great. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.